So this is the American remake of the horror movie Wreck that came out only a year before this movie in 2007, and this movie came out in 2008. The main actor, though, is played by the same girl that plays Deborah Morgan in Dexter. I didn't realize that until like near the end of the movie when she's getting dragged off screen. But then again, I don't watch Dexter. I've just seen clips and edits. Um, Maybe I'll get to it one day. But yeah, it reuses a lot of stuff from the original. I've seen that as a criticism for a lot of horror movies. Like the Freddy Krueger remake got a lot of shit for that, like that they recreated some of the kills from the original, and people were saying that this is basically the original but worse. And then they didn't like some of the other elements that were put into that movie. And a lot of remakes get unfair flack in my opinion for honoring the past. Like if you do a little bit too much, it makes sense, but a lot of the time I don't think they do too much. I think they do quite a bit, but not too much. I think this movie does too much. They'll read lines straight up, word for word, and a lot of the scenes are scene for scene. Um, the biggest change is that we actually see some infected animals, which is not something we saw in Rec 1. We didn't see it in Rec 2. We didn't see it in Rec 3. We didn't see an infected animal until Rec 4. But this movie has infected animals, and we see them. Um, Multiple different species, actually. But I just think that there was definitely too much recreations from the original Rec. It was a little ridiculous, if I'm being honest. Not a terrible movie, but not great either. I probably wouldn't rewatch it. If I'm gonna watch a movie, I would rather watch Rec. I think it was also kind of scarier, and this movie just wasn't that scary, especially due to the fact that it's just doing stuff that I already know is gonna happen. Um, you'd think you'd at least change up some of the major kills, like the one guy who's telling them where to get the keys, and then he stupidly stands by the door and gets pulled by the infected doctor and bit. Like that happens in the Wreck movie, and they do it here too, so you see it coming. There's the iconic kill with the guy being thrown down off, several floors, but it's here, it's just expected. But I don't want to shit on this movie too much, so let's talk about the positives. We see an infected rat in this movie that gets stepped on by the cameraman. Um, it's more of like in passing thing, like it doesn't matter that much, but I thought it was cool. He was like, "Did you see that? That rat was fucking running at me." He's clearly freaked out by the behavior of the rat. We see Dalmatians at the firefighter place before we get to, the main part of the movie of them being stuck in the apartment. And then we see a German Shepherd that is infected and ends up killing somebody in an elevator. Now, the elevator thing, that's another negative thing I have to say. They never explain why, but apparently the elevators are working in this movie when the power is down. The power goes out, just like in the original, The government's cutting the power. So, people can't use their phones and stuff anymore. Here's another small change that we get added into this movie. We see this couple, they apparently have a TV with antennas, so they can still use their TV. So they go and see it, and we find out that the government is lying and saying that everybody in the building's evacuated when they're not. But yeah, they explain in that scene that the TV is able to work because it's an antenna TV and not like a cable TV, stuff like that. Um, Yet the elevators are working. I The elevator shouldn't be working. That costs power. The lights aren't working. Nothing's working. They have to use their camera for light. And apparently the elevators are working. Kind of stupid. There just isn't that much to talk about for this movie because, like I said, it's too much like Wreck. They do have differences, but not enough. Their dog also gets killed off screen. There's like one of the differences that one of the fighters is overly flirty with the camera woman, or the reporter, not camera woman. And it's a bit sexist with the way he talks about her too. He ends up dying. The other firefighter gets some somewhat cooler kills in this movie. There's some decent kills in this movie, but the movie itself just isn't great, and it's too much like Wreck. The movie ends the same way, but since they made the sequel quite a bit later, it didn't follow this continued storyline like the Wreck did. So it ends the exact same way, but it's not even gonna follow up on that. So I guess she just dies in this movie, in this continuity, or we just never find out what happens to her. The sequel is its own original thing, but not gonna lie, it might have been worse. But I guess that's quarantine for you.